Alright folks, and we're back with part 2 of the 2005 Toyota Highlander front control arm removal. Just to kind of recap, we've got our rotor disconnected and off. We've got the brake caliper with the bracket taken off as well. Went ahead and loosened, disconnected our shroud so we could get our ball joint separated and taken off. And the hardest part of this job is getting the engine jacked up so that way you can remove your engine mount. And once you've got your engine mount removed, you now have access to the bolt that you need to get to in order to get the front control arm off. So let's go ahead and get set up and uninstall the front control arm.
Yeah, right, Dad?
All right, here we go.
And also well, right, Dad?
Uh-huh. Right, hopefully we get the gun in here. Okay, so what's happening there is I'm losing my torque through this extension, so we're gonna have to try something different here. Something's not right here. Okay, well, let's see if the breaker bar will get that off. And it looks like it will. Set up so you can see what I'm doing here.
One. Oh, hey, Dad, that got turned off with the...
You see how big of a bolt these are? Alright, there's one part of the control arm. Now, we just got to get this back part disconnected and we'll be able to remove the control arm. Alright, now let's get the last mount bolt for the control arm off. It's going to be 19 millimeter on the bottom here. And it's also going to be a 19 millimeter on the top. Get that knocked out there. Now we should be able to start pulling our control arm out. Alright, now that we finally got everything disconnected, let's go ahead and see about getting this control arm out. And there we have it. There's the old control arm. Now, let's go ahead and get the new control arm in. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've uninstalled the new ball joint from the new control arm. I'll reinstall that here in a little bit. It'll make installing the control arm a whole heck of a lot easier. Alright, here we go. There we go. All right. Come on. See if I can get something to straighten that out there. Come on, there we go. Yes, kiddo.
Milk.
Yeah, give me just a second. I'll get you some milk. Alright, just gotta fight this a little bit here. Just gotta find the sweet spot. That'll lift it up. Put it where I want it to go. Come on now. There we go. So, if you saw all that, just had to do some prying to get all this to go back in the proper place. All right. Now I say, let's get everything tightened down accordingly. See, I'm missing my socket. So I'm just gonna regroup. I'll be right back. All right, let's go ahead and get our bolts back in tight. And for that one, since I used the extension, make sure I got the proper torque. I'm just going to give this one a good, make sure I'm good there. Alright, now our new control arm has been installed. Let's look at getting our engine mount back in. Get that line back up. And now let's go ahead and drop our engine back down. Make sure our mount's going back together smoothly. There we go. sure all our holes are in. Now you got to make sure that your mount, your front mount lines up as well. So I'll show you here. You want to make sure that stud comes back through that bolt hole right there. All right, now we're ready to drop the engine back down.
Back down right there.
There we go.
So.
All right. Now we can move the jack out of there, and we can start working on getting our mount put back together. And we're going to want our 17mm socket again. So you've got your 3 17mm on the bottom. Okay, we'll crawl underneath here, get this back final one. And then that leaves us with our 19 on the top. Sweet, that's good and done. Now we want to work on getting our ball joint in. And that's going to be a little interesting. So I'm going to reset the camera back up for us. Okay, so in order to do this, go ahead and get your ball joint installed. Don't tighten it. Just get it in there so you can get your nut, your castle nut on there. And then kind of move it to the side. You're going to use a pry bar. And you're going to pry down as hard and as far as you can until you can get this puppy lined up in there. Okay, it'll come back together. Then go ahead and get your bolts reinstalled. I believe they're going to be 17 millimeter. No, they're not. Actually, they're going to be 18 millimeters. Now, what I'm about to do here is a sin in some people's eyes. That's because I'm about to use a chrome socket. Just broke. Alright, so looks like I'll need to put a new fitting on my air hose. No big deal. So with a little bit of prying, you can go ahead and get this lower ball joint reinstalled. Come on. Now the new control arm is going to have different size bolts. So they're going to be an 18 on this one. It's an 18, and I believe a 15. Yep. All right. And so technically, we are finished. The control arm is installed. All new bushings. New ball joint. Go ahead and tighten down your 19mm nut up here and install your new safety pin. There we have it. So now I'm going to install a new rotor, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a minute. Alright, so now we're going to finish this side by putting on a new brake rotor. Go. Get a few threads started there. Get our brake rotor on. There we go. I'm trying not to block the camera. All right, and last but not least, get that tightened down nice and good. And then last but not least here, I need to find my 12mm socket. We want to go ahead and get your brake line reattached to the bracket up here. And there you go, folks. This is the end of part 2 to the Toyota Highlander control arm removal and replacement. So you want to take off your brake bracket and caliper as one, 2 17mm bolts. Go ahead and remove your rotor. Disconnect your shroud so you can work with it and get it out of the way. Disconnect and remove your tie rod end. Disconnect and remove your tie rod end. Then you've got to jack up your engine by disconnecting the front motor mount and also disconnecting and removing this engine mount, and then go ahead and remove your control arm. So we now have all new control arm bushings, ball joint, and a new rotor. All right, folks, well, that's the end of this video. I think I'm going to go ahead and make a part 3 and show you how I jack up the other side of the engine to get the other side control arm completed and done. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for your support. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment section. I will do my best to answer them for you. This is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.